This is a special presentation of 4-Star Sports Media. Welcome to the 4-Star Sports Media College Football Pick'em Show. Now, live from the BA Mask Studios, here's your host, from the Point, Wes Pruitt.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the back where we started on Saturday morning. College football, dang it. Back where we started on Saturday morning, college football Saturday picks. My bad, Zach. I can see that smile. My bad. We got some very special guests, a great friend of the show, been on numerous times now. Very astute man in college football, Mr. Tony Siracusa. Tony, welcome back to Zach.
Thanks, I appreciate it. I'm not so sure about astute, but I'm here.
He's still waking up, Tony. Don't feel bad.
All right, fair enough.
Zach, how you doing this morning, man? It's early.
It's early and I'm one-armed, but big thank you to everybody reaching out for me after my wreck a week ago. And I'm glad to be in one piece. Let's just say that.
Yeah. Most definitely, man. Most definitely. Zach, I tell you, man, just the college football season just a few weeks ago. And now we're already at the end. It blows me, man. It absolutely blows me away that we're here. But give me your thoughts on this college football season coming into the college football championship.
My Hogs dropped the ball. But overall, I did not have a lot of things on my bingo card. I did not have LSU going into winning the West and going to the SEC title game. There's a lot of things. I did not have prime time going 11-0 at Jackson State. Did not have Hugh Freeze going to Liberty. There are so many things that happen very fast in college football that sometimes it's hard to keep up.
This is true, man. Hugh Freeze surprised me. I have my own personal thoughts. I'll keep them to myself because I don't want to piss anybody off on Saturday morning. I'm getting hang on bacon, so I'll keep it to myself. Tony, what about you, man? What are your thoughts on this college football season so far?
Yeah, a lot of surprises for me on this end. Also, a lot of teams started hot and then fizzled out at the end. You take teams that were surprising to see them in the top 10, in the top 15, a UCLA, a Wake Forest, schools like that, and then only to see them crash down to reality, in the back half of the season. Hugh Freeze to Auburn, definitely surprise on my radar. TCU is a surprise. I mean, I've known Sonny Dykes for a handful of years. I think highly of him. He's a very good coach. In no way did I see him going to this level in year one at TCU with a quarterback who wasn't even the starter when the season began. So a lot of surprises, a lot of fun, but I agree with you guys, man. The impact, it's you get started and then it feels like just a short period of time goes by and you're at championship weekend again. It's college football is a very high impact sport in terms of the calendar for sure.
Absolutely.
Most definitely. Let me ask you this, man. one thing that I find very, very interesting is NIL and transfer portal. We're going to get into it a little later on the series we're going to do. What's your thought? And tell me you next.
Wes, we're having audio issues on our end, buddy.
All right, just a second.
But I think what Wes was asking, Tony, was the transfer portal and the NILs are changing the landscape of college football. Yeah. What kind of, and like I said, we're going to be doing a series on it later on. Mm-hmm. But I just wanted to ask you, what kind of an impact is it having with teams like Alabama?
Well, I think NIL is having a bigger impact with Alabama than the transfer portal is, because you see players leaving Alabama, but not that many. And you see even fewer going into Alabama through the portal. You see Nick Saban still relying heavily on his recruiting classes. The NIL makes that easier. And I think that the NIL, like most things that start out, I was in favor of it. I still am. I'm not in favor of the way it's working necessarily, because I don't like the collectives. NIL was supposed to be a direct relationship between player and sponsor, and the interchanging of money there for what we would call deliverables. The guy goes and does a commercial for a car dealer or signs autographs or whatever. The collectives, it was several months ago, but at Last Word on College Football, we ran an editorial basically referring to the collectives as legalized money laundering, because they're there to gather money regardless of where it comes from, the boosters, the sponsors, whatever it may be, and then distribute that among the players with no deliverables other than you're suiting up to play. There's a lot of problems with it. And I know you guys are going to get into a deeper dive in the coming weeks, so I won't go too far now. I would just say there's a big difference in the collective. Some are 501c3s, registered as such. They're going to have a big problem. And then the others, make no bones about it, they're there for profit. The portal is changing this year, and I think everybody needs to really get a grasp of the details, because we're about to see a mad dash to the portal, and it's going to feel like it's going to feel like numbers we've never seen before. And I don't think that's necessarily true. It's because they changed the transfer portal so that there is a date specific window for it. It used to be you could go in and out and do whatever. Last year they had it that you had to find a team by May 1st in order to be eligible for the coming year. This year it's even more different. The portal opens on Monday, the 5th. It's only open for 60 days. You have 60 days to get in. You can have until May 1st still to go find your new team, wherever you want to go. But because of that 60-day window, it's going to feel like there's a rush of players to the portal that we've never seen before, when simply all it is a redistribution on the calendar of the numbers.
So, Zach, when you look at that, what Tony just said, there's a 60-day rush into the portal. I mean, are we going to see some big name guys jump in?
Les, that's a very interesting question. Year by year since this transfer portal thing happened, to where instead of sitting out a year, you now have the ability to impact your team immediately. You could see a big name like who's the Haynes King out of Texas A&M. You've got.
Is that a big name, though?
In certain circles, yes. That's a big thing. Who's the quarterback out of Michigan that just went in the portal, I think?
Cade McNamara.
Caden McNamara. That's big. That's big. Okay. It all depends on the fan base and the conference, because somebody in Michigan, when they see Haynes King at A&M, they're not going to go, oh, my God, that's huge. But if you see a Cade McNamara out of Michigan after going 11-0, 12-0,
No.
okay, and you see him hit the portal, yeah, that's huge. And that's nationwide news. Whereas Haynes Keene's kind of more SEC big.
Very true. Very
I think all that's right. It depends on your depth of knowledge of the second and third string quarterbacks at any program. But you also look at, the ACC, which when the season started, one of the talking points was all the quarterbacks who were starting quarterbacks who were returning to their teams. Now, Phil Jerkovich from Boston College has announced he's going into the portal as a grad transfer. Brennan, the kid from Virginia, who is the starting quarterback, is going into the transfer portal because Tony Elliott and the new offense at Virginia just, basically killed the kid's season. So I think it, like you guys are talking about, I think it just depends on the who and what. I mean, for me, McNamara is a huge story because, Michigan's playing for the conference championship today, and they're going to likely be in the playoffs at a time when their backup quarterback is, hitting the road. So it just kind of depends on the who and what. Late last night, overnight, UCLA had their place kicker, Barmira, go to the transfer portal, which doesn't sound like a big deal, except he is the place kicker and the punter on the roster. and he's gone. He's going in the transfer portal. So it's, I agree with the sentiment. It kind of depends who it is, where it is. Some guys are going to have a more immediate impact at where they go. It seems like McNamara knew where he wanted to go because he was announcing for Iowa pretty much as soon as he was announcing that he was going in the portal. And I think we can all agree Iowa's offense desperately needs any amount of help that they can get. So there's an immediate impact there.
Most definitely. Zach, throw that comment back up there. We are at it early this morning. Good morning to everybody watching and listening right now.
Let me give a special shout out to this one, Wes. Sydney Fields filled in for me last night on Inside the Hog Pen and absolutely killed it.
Yes, she did. She did. She knocked it out of the park, man. Her and MC did a great job, and you were on last night as well.
I was riding third wheel. It's okay.
You were riding the in the little sidecar up there.
Yep. I was actually riding the sidecar of the sidecar, if that makes sense.
Extension of the sidecar. I got you. But welcome to the show. Everybody, please go visit 4star.live. That's where all of our content is. It's where this show will be here, posted here shortly. All of our shows, all of our articles as well. We work very hard to produce good quality, consistent content for all of our fans. And Zach, as of late, it's been nice. The uptick of fans has been nice to see, definitely brand wide. But Zach, what do you think is going on with all these coaches, man? Let's do a little coaching carousel talk real quick. Just so Hugh Freeze get hired, Liberty job is open. Prime time might be going to Colorado. He might be going to South Florida. Barry Odom interviewed via Zoom. What's going on, man? Who do you think ends up at Liberty? Let me just start with this. Does Kendall Browse end up at Liberty?
I don't know. You really haven't heard anything out of KB. Barry Odom might stay at Arkansas, and there's a couple of factors contributing to that. If you want to know what those are, check out last night's episode of Inside the Hog Pen. Shameless plug. Sorry, boss. Here's the thing, though. I was watching Game Day as I was getting ready for the show, and I don't know if you guys saw it, but Deion Sanders, Colorado, was looking more and more and more likely.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Tony, have you? I mean, you don't have to divulge any information here, but I mean,
I think it's right. I think 2 days ago I laughed at it because out of the job possibilities that Deion could have, I didn't understand the Colorado one the most, if that makes sense. There are some places where there are openings where Deion's not going to be able to be a candidate because there are academic concerns with Deion's past and the charter school that he was running for a period of time. And its imminent collapse and the investigations into that. So there were some concerns for some schools. He was never going to be a candidate at Stanford, but
True.
boy, Colorado, I'm not. I believe it, because where there's smoke, eventually there's fire, and the smoke has been growing for a couple of days. But I don't understand it. I really don't. I mean, Colorado, it's a school that barely supports its program. The football program over the last 10 years. Mel Tucker left them in a lurch because he left in like February a few years ago to go take the Michigan State job. And Carl Durrell was a quick hire and a bad hire. I've known Carl for several years, and he's a good position coach. He's never been a particularly good head coach. But boy, this, I guess, I guess this is the commitment to the football program, that you're just trying to make a splash and get that big name. But I don't get it from Deion's perspective. I think he could do better. I was hearing it on, from a guy named, and some people may remember him, a guy named Sua Cravens, who was, great player at USC, who's now a TV personality in Los Angeles. But Sua tends to do a lot of talking without necessarily backing stuff up. But he was calling this about 3 days ago. And he and I were kind of going back and forth with each other on Twitter. And man, I hate to say it, but it's entirely likely he's right. I do think this, though. Deion is the one who makes Deion's announcements, if that makes sense. Deion is very much in charge of his own personality, his branding. Right. Yeah, everything that he does. So it's not true until Deion says it.
That's a fact. I mean, he's got this series he does with a guy that does an interview with him. And he asked him the other day in an interview if he was going to see some game out in Colorado, like Denver and somebody or something. And then he fell out laughing. And Deion grabbed the mic and he was like, "Man, that's good. Like, you're good. Like, you're really, you almost got me to slip up and say, yeah, I'm going out to Colorado. Like, you're really
he asked
good."
him, he asked him if he was going to be in town to see the Broncos.
Yeah.
And then he asked him if he was going to go see the Bengals game, because of course Cincinnati has a job opening in college football also. So he was trying to nail down where Deion was going to be traveling, and of course Deion wouldn't give any of it away.
Right. Tony, speaking of that Cincinnati job, Luke Fickell was a move that I really didn't expect to see coming, going to Wisconsin. In my mind, I could be wrong here, but in my mind, you're already going to a Power 5 conference next year.
Right.
Why make the jump? Why didn't make the jump last year?
Right.
But that job, do you see that job gaining any intrigue from maybe a bigger name coach?
Yeah, look, I think because it's going to the Big 12, frankly, honestly, I could have seen Deion taking the Cincinnati job. Because it's a major city. It's and let's be clear about the Colorado job. It's not Denver, it's Boulder, which is a significant media difference. Cincinnati's a big city, and you're going to the Big 12. You're going to a Power 5 conference next year. So I actually could have seen Deion in that job. The academics, no offense to Cincinnati, but historically, the academics have not been, a roadblock for much of anybody. Some of us still remember Bob Huggins' basketball team going to the Final Four and then finding out afterwards the team GPA was a 0.0 because they all had incompletes in every one of their classes. Yeah, exactly. So I could have seen that. So, yeah, I do think it's worthy of a big name because they are going to the Big 12. The Big 12 just extended its TV contracts for the next, I think, 3 years before they have to go into new negotiations. So there's good money there, even with Oklahoma and Texas leaving. There's good money there for the schools. So I do think it's worthy of a big name. I think Luke Fickell raised the profile of the football program there. And I do think they'll get a big name.
Well, let me ask you this. I mean, and when that job first came open, one of the first names that came to mind is a guy that was there, that was very successful there. He's in Jonesboro, Arkansas at the moment, but his name is Butch Jones.
Sure.
When you look at Butch Jones,
Wait. He's going to Auburn. You didn't hear it?
No, but I mean, really though, I mean, I think that would be a guy that, I mean, people would call it a retread, but if you go back and look at the history of Cincinnati coaches, Rick Minter, Butch Jones, Brian Kelly, I mean, he's up there with one of the more successful coaches that's coached at Cincinnati.
Yeah, I'm not a huge Butch Jones guy. I think he's done fine.
Come on, why not? Come on, Tony, why not?
I think he's done fine. I don't think he's done poorly. I think claiming championships in life and things of that, and when you don't win on the field is certainly good for those who will buy into the distractions. I think Cincinnati can do better.
I mean, I don't disagree. I really don't. Zach, when you look at Cincinnati, I mean, obviously it's a team last year that, went to the playoffs, played really well. Not a bad season this year. Did not make the conference championship, which we'll talk about here shortly. Is there a guy out there? I mean, well, let me ask you this. They went with Luke Fickell, who's more of a defensive-minded guy. Do you see them now going more with an offensive-minded guy?
Well, first off, why Luke Fickell jumped from Cincinnati to Wisconsin when he knew, and he was the one that had been pushing for Cincinnati to become a Power 5 school, and he jumped ship, kind of gives shades of Lincoln Riley from Oklahoma to USC, and that's kind of where I was talking to Tony earlier about the transfer portal and the NIL deal. These coaches are doing the same thing.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
It's the Wild Wild West.
Lincoln Riley, it is. Lincoln Riley said, I don't want to be a part of the SEC. I'm going to the Pac-12. That's exactly what that move was. It wasn't anything other than he didn't want to play with the big boys.
But, I mean, let me ask you this.
But Luke Fickell
took the job. Did we see him being where he is today?
No, but at the same time, look at the bigger picture, Wes. Luke Fickell kind of did the same thing. He looked at the Big 12 going, there's no way I'm going to be able to compete with these guys. I'm going to end up back at the bottom again.
But I really think Cincinnati could have stepped in and actually competed in the Big 12.
They could have. But Luke Fickell didn't see that, just like Lincoln Riley didn't see Oklahoma competing in the SEC. Okay? With Texas and if Cincinnati would have joined the Big 12 while Texas and Oklahoma were still part of that conference, yes, they're not even a chance because of Texas and Oklahoma. You've got Texas and Oklahoma leaving for the SEC. That leaves the Big 12 completely wide open. You've got teams like Baylor and Kansas State and TCU, but we don't know if those are going to be flash in the pan and flashes in a pan. I told you got me up too early.
Flashes in the plan or pan? Which one?
I don't know.
Here, I have a question for you two guys, though. If I can do that.
All right, Jack, we wasn't expecting this.
All right, if I can throw a question at you two.
Sure.
How damaged is Jim Leonard? Because Paul Chryst was fired with Jim Leonard being the heir apparent, right? I mean, they wanted to keep him. They wanted to make sure that he didn't take the Nebraska job. So they fire Paul Chryst and make Jim Leonard the interim and give him the last nine weeks of the season as his showcase to make the case for being hired, and then they don't keep him. So how damaged in the coaching market, if you're looking for a job, how damaged is Jim Leonard now by this?
Do you want that one first, Zach, or do you want me to get it?
Dude, you put me on the spot, and I haven't even had.
Sorry.
All right, you're gonna have to give me a little bit. My brain's not as fast as it normally is at night. Come on.
Sorry, I'm on my second full pot of coffee. So,
look, Tony's always on point. Tony never fails. He always on point.
He really is. To answer your question, Tony, I would say he's pretty damaged. Not only from an aspect of what happened on the side on the field, but then what transpired postseason off the field. I think what happened off the field is a big deal. And I think it hurts him from a athletic department standpoint, wanting a guy to come in. I mean, obviously we saw Hugh Freeze. Auburn forgives anything, but it's fresh. It's a very fresh wound. There's no scab on it. I think he's damaged pretty bad, to be honest with you. I really do. I don't know that we see him hired this offseason.
Maybe as an assistant coach to kind of rejuvenate his name for a couple of years, before he gets the shot.
Yeah, he could show up at Alabama as an analyst. I mean, look at Butch Jones.
Yeah,
Butch
did
it.
Sure. Hey, who Lane Kiffin did it. Steve Sarkisian did it. They all did it.
Hey, that Saban rehab facility
it works. It works.
It does. It works. The Saban rehab facility works.
Yeah. And then with regards to Auburn, I mean, look, I got friends who are hardcore Auburn fans. I just find the program so distasteful right now. I mean, they tried to leak out, family and marital indiscretions on Harsin a year ago to run him out of town. Yes. But then you turn around and hire Hugh Freeze. I mean, seriously? Yeah. Wow. It just blows me away that they're just going to make up their own guidelines as they go along with whatever fits from one week to the next.
Yeah. I mean, Zach, I know you love Auburn, so I know you're going to love this topic, but that's total sarcasm. Zach freaking hates it. But when you look at Auburn, I just, first off, was John Sokoloff right or was he wrong? That's really what I'm curious to know.
He was dead wrong. Sorry.
That's it. He was wrong.
Sorry.
No, I'm saying he was flat out wrong.
College football. That man just pimped Ole Miss for a lot of money and not a good season.
Wait a minute. All right. Auburn is the playground of the SEC, and I'm going to explain. Let me explain. A couple years back, the Arkansas job came open. Okay? Arkansas job came open. Guess whose name was linked with it? Former Auburn head coach Gus Malzahn. Everybody thought Malzahn's coming back. Malzahn's coming back. Malzahn's coming back. He did it to get Auburn to give him more money.
Yeah.
Lane Kiffin just did the same damn thing.
Yes, man.
There was no way on God's green earth he was going to go from Ole Miss to Auburn. There was no way. There was no truth behind that at all. In my opinion, there was no truth behind it all.
I agree with Zach. I totally agree with Zach. I didn't think there was any chance it was going to happen. He played Ole Miss into more money, but Ole Miss knew they were being played into more money. That's fine. That's the way the system works. Sokoloff was wrong. He can tap dance as he did and say, well, now it's down to, it's down to Kiffin and it's down to Freeze. No, dude, you sat there and said, it is Kiffin. Your sources have him telling Ole Miss tonight. It is locked in. Look, and it's fine. We all make mistakes. As reporters, I've made them. We sat there at Last Word on College Sports. We sat there 5 years ago this week and wrote a story that said Chip Kelly is taking the UCLA job. Our sources have told us Chip Kelly is going to be hired by UCLA. And I trusted my sources. One other media outlet that is a UCLA-centric digital media outlet went with their sources, and they said the same thing, different sources, and then they pulled their story the next day. And we published this on a Tuesday night, and I did not sleep for Wednesday or Thursday or Friday when it wasn't happening. And then on a Saturday morning, I was in the barber chair because I still got to go to the barber every now and again.
Hey,
hard to believe, I know, right?
I know.
Hard to believe. And I was getting told show off.
Right?
Don't worry, Tony. I use Bosley. It's fine.
All right. But I get pinged while I'm in the barber's chair, and I'm sitting there, and I'm not name dropping, but just to paint the picture, this was a guy who, if you knew the barber, you could get in at like 6 a.m. on a Saturday morning and beat the rush,
Nice.
right? So I would go, and I would routinely see Pat Hayden there. For anyone old enough to remember Pat Hayden, the former USC quarterback and athletic director, he'd be there. And I get pinged to say, make sure you have ESPN on. And it was my source that had given me the story. And I told the bar, you got to turn on ESPN. And ESPN says UCLA is announcing Chip Kelly. Man, I never, I never was so relieved in my life. Point being, we get stuff wrong. It happens. Just own up to it, man. Don't do the tap dance that says, well, we had said the night before, it could be this, it could be that. Just own up to, you called it Kiffin. It didn't turn out that way. And everybody turns the page. But he got it wrong.
Kiffin played Arkansas too.
Oh, yeah.
If you think about it, before the announcement for Sam Pittman being hired at Arkansas, everybody said it's Kiffin. It's a done deal. It's Kiffin. It's a done deal.
Right. I do think Kiffin will go somewhere else someday, sooner rather than later, because all coaches have a huge ego. Kiffin is an egomaniac of massive proportion, and that's fine, whatever. That's just who he is. But it means he also can't sit still for very long because he needs somebody new to love him at some point down the road.
I mean, I hear A&M's opening up sometime soon.
That'd take a lot of money to open up.
$95 million.
That's a lot. Nathan Wilson said Lane Kiffin to go to Alabama when Saban leaves.
And I agree.
And then we'll wrap up the coach talk. Let me ask you this, Tony. As a guy who covers the ACC, I'm pretty sure you've gotten to know one Mr. Dabo Sweeney pretty well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Do you see, based on recent play by Clemson, do you see him still being, because everybody has said around the whatever, he's the next guy at Bama. He played, he went there, blah, blah, blah. Do you see him as the next guy or no?
I don't think it's an automatic like a lot of people do. And I'm going to say this. I had a chance to talk to Dabo yesterday, as well as Mac Brown. We were out at the press conferences for the ACC Championship game tonight, and we were out there covering it live for Last Word on College Football. I had a chance to do some Q&A and so on, along with other reporters. And Dabo is a likable guy. While I don't agree with much of what he says or does, he's still a likable guy and a likable coach. I don't buy into the Dabo cult, and it is a cult that many Clemson fans have created around him, that he can do no wrong and say no wrong. He does, but he's still a likable guy. I will say this. At one point, I would have thought it was an automatic that he goes over there. I think his entrenchment at Clemson is so deep as part of the community and part of, the fan base. And I think it's so deep that it's not an automatic. He still has a tremendous amount of reverence for his old head coach, Gene Stallings, when Dabo was an assistant under him at Bama. And that really is his still significant tie to Alabama. Beyond that, this is actually the anniversary of Dabo getting the Clemson job. 2 days ago was the anniversary when he got it in 2009. You're looking at 13, 14 years now of being at Clemson. I don't think it's an automatic that you just say, well, he's got ties to Alabama and he goes. I don't think it's that simple anymore. Not this long into his Clemson tenure.
It's a good point. I guess time flies. I didn't realize Bud had been there for 13 seasons.
Yeah.
Man,
yeah.
He has been hauling ass down that hill for 13 seasons. That's crazy.
I'm going to ask the dumb question because, Tony, that's what I'm here for. I ask all the goofy questions. How is he not tripped?
I'm going to tell you. I have an answer. You ready? I actually have an answer. Next Clemson home game, or go on YouTube, watch some videos. Okay, you will see a bump in that orange carpet going downhill because there is a bump in the grass.
Right.
They actually place a staffer on each side of the carpet at that bump so that the players and coaches see it, where the bump is before as they're running down. You'll see players take a little leap, and it's because they know where that bump is because the team places a staffer on each side of it.
Yeah, but Tony, I've seen this dude haul ass down this hill. I have seen him haul ass down this hill. How is he not? I had a photo on my face. I'm not gonna lie. All right.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I do it. I'd fall down every week.
But I mean,
there's no.
You set a camera at the bottom of that hill, and I've seen angles of this. He is hauling.
Yeah.
I want to know how that man has not eaten grass, no less miles pun intended, coming down this damn hill.
It is surprising that it hasn't happened because I've seen players do it. I've seen video of players do it. They don't see the coach or they're overly excited or whatever the case may be. But I've never seen Dabo do it. That's for sure.
It would certainly make an SEC or a ESPN Sports Center top 10.
Absolutely.
Or a not top 10.
Or not top 10. Wes, we're up against the break, dude.
Oh, I know. Yeah, I was just ready to mention that. We've been running 40 freaking minutes with Tony starting off the show. We ain't even touched the damn game yet, and some stuff happened last night. So we're going to take a quick break. You are watching and listening to the College Football Saturday Championship Edition here on the 4-Star Sports Radio Network.
Hey fans, did you know that 4-Star Sports Media now has a YouTube channel? You can catch exclusive content covering all things Memphis Tigers and the Arkansas Razorbacks. Shows like The Point, and the only show on social media about the Arkansas Razorbacks that is purely fan-driven, Inside the Hog Pen. Plus other shows like The Hog Trough, The 4-Star Sports Show, and many more coming soon. So check them out today. Go on YouTube.com and search 4-Star Sports Media.
Man, that is a dapper photo of Tony Siracusa right there that we used for that.
I'm kind of jealous of that one. Let's throw that one back up there just a second. I'm digging. I don't like the orange polo because that's not a bad picture, man. And I'm surprised.
Tony. It's a great photo.
I'm surprised that trophy is not sitting currently behind him and his curio cabinet behind him. So I'm gonna throw that out there, but.
I'm gonna say I don't take good photos, and I'm fine with it. I know who I am, and I don't take good photos. If I could have grabbed that trophy and put it back there in the cabinet with me. That would have been cool. I've got tons of stuff back there. Most of it more of personal meaning than, anything that you would ever get on, some great auction site for $20,000 or whatever. Most of it is personally autographed stuff, to us. There is one, and I know we've got tons of stuff to get to, but if you can see in the upper corner, there's a white basketball. It's actually a white and brown basketball. And it's a quick, funny story. Yeah, there, you can see it right up there. Well, I'm not pointing well, but it's up there in the corner. Hey, there you go. It's up there in the corner. It was in 2005, and there was a charity that coaches all across the country were doing for Katrina hurricane relief. And coaches, football coaches, basketball coaches, everybody was putting team stuff up for auction. And I saw that, and it was a UCLA basketball autographed by their Final Four team. So it was guys like Jordan Farmar and Aaron Aflalo, Darren Collison, guys like that, right? And so I was like, wow, no one's bidding on it. I can probably get this thing, pretty inexpensively. And it was about maybe half a day left in the bidding, and finally someone else jumped in. And we wound up going back and forth for for what was left of the auction, like half a day, upping it $25 here, $50 there. It wound up getting up to like $500. And I was like, yeah, I'm out. The other person won. And I was kind of bummed, but I hadn't told anyone that I was bidding on it. It was one of those random things I saw when I was supposed to be working. Fast forward a couple months to Christmas, and it's under the Christmas tree for me from my wife. She was the other person bidding who outbid me for it. She didn't know I was bidding on it. I didn't know she was bidding on it. I wound up paying hundreds of dollars more for that basketball than I needed to. I mean, I went to charity, so that's fine. But it was my wife under a pseudonym that was outbidding me. It was an expensive basketball. Just saying.
That's funny. That is funny right there.
That is a story to tell.
Absolutely.
Oh,
that is a story to tell.
There's one other one in there that's funny. It's autographed by the 1998-99 UCLA basketball team, specifically to my daughter. She was born. She's our March Madness kid. She was born, during the tournament. And we had ties to the UCLA basketball program. And one day, Toby Bailey passed a ball around, and they all signed it. And Matt Barnes and Ray Young and, a bunch of guys like that, Dan Gedzurek, they all signed it, gave it to us about 2 days before she was born. We didn't know we were having a daughter. Didn't matter. They were like, here, it's for your kid. She was born about 7 hours after UCLA's worst loss, well, one of their many bad losses in the tournament, to Detroit Mercy in the first round of the tournament. A team that Baron Davis said should have gotten special recognition for being a team with no coach, taking his shot at Steve Lavin at the time. And but there's the basketball from that team for, enduring the loss to Detroit Mercy.
Yeah. Well, Zach, we had some championship games kick off last night. We got a couple of conference champions already around the country.
Yeah. In the Conference USA, you've got UTSA Roadrunners. And
got their 10th straight win last night and second consecutive CUSA championship with a 48-27 win over North Texas in the Alamo Dome, which is a really cool arena if you've ever been there. I was there for a concert, but thoroughly enjoyed it. When you look at UTSA, Zach, it's a team that Memphis fans don't like because of what happened last season when we gave up like a 17-point lead and then ended up losing by a last-second field goal. 10th straight win. Jeff Traylor has done an incredible job there. Another guy that I'm really kind of surprised he didn't make a leap somewhere. He likes San Antonio, Texas. don't blame him. I could live on the Riverwalk. That place.
That is such a beautiful place, isn't it?
Yeah, really is, man.
I was stationed at Fort Sam Houston for about a year, and just fell in love with San Antonio.
Dude, love it. Love that place. Long freaking drive, hotter than daggum, you know what down there. But yeah, a lot of fun. But congratulations to UTSA. Tony, what are your thoughts on the Road Runners from UTSA?
Been a fan of theirs for a few years now. I like Jeff Traylor. I think Jeff Traylor is going to be a candidate for many jobs coming up. And I don't know that UTSA has the depth of resources to keep him. I don't know if they have the booster financial pull to be able to keep him from a bigger program. I think he's done a fantastic job there. They've had some ups and downs based over the past few years, as anyone does with personnel moves. But the way they've had Frank Harris there, it's turned in some great seasons. I'm a fan of Jeff Traylor. I can see why you would love San Antonio. It is a great city. First time I stayed there, my hotel room was overlooking. You can look across the street, and I was like, "Wow, that's interesting." They have a replica of the Alamo. I didn't realize it really was the Alamo because it was so small.
Yeah, and it took me we went through it in a minute.
Right,
we were
exactly.
Done.
You think of the Alamo as this big thing.
It doesn't
really small.
It doesn't help that it's right smack dab in the middle of downtown San Antonio.
Right,
you think
exactly.
you think it was in this remote area where and everything else, but no, it's literally right in the smack dab of downtown San Antonio in the busiest area. So
it's true.
I also learned that right around that area, there's a little parking area right there. The problem is they charge you $35 to park your car. And guess what? Dumb A paid that.
I was going to say there's only one way you would know how much it cost. Exactly.
That was you, wasn't it?
Exactly.
Exactly. That is it.
Yeah, I think Traylor's a great coach, but I think that whether it's this year or the next, his time is going to come to go somewhere else. That's just life when you're at the level of a UTSA.
Yeah, I agree.
In fact, Jeff Traylor, where did he come from?
I actually don't know.
Jeff Traylor was at Arkansas. He was there.
Right. I did not remember that.
Wait, I knew something Tony didn't. I gotta mark that down. That's never happened. It's only because it's a Saturday morning and Tony doesn't keep up with Arkansas that much.
Right. Yeah. All right, man. Up next, Zach, the Pac-12, a conference that I enjoy watching. I know Tony has a very special interest in the Pac-12 conference. He covered it for however long he did. He's a big UCLA guy as well. But the Utah Utes with a huge upset last night. It wasn't just that they won. It was how they did it, in my opinion. 47-24 over USC. Lincoln Riley had 11 wins this year, Zach, making him the first coach to do that since 1925 when Howard Jones did it. And then John Robinson did it in 1976. I'm impressed with what Lincoln Riley's done out there so far. I'm going to let Tony talk on this one last because I know he has a deep disdain for USC.
And he's much smarter than me, so he can mop up the edges that I screw up. So
when you look at USC and Utah last night, Utah gets the win. They're heading to the Rose Bowl. I love that bowl game. It's one of my favorite bowl games of the season. I love the parade, everything around it. Utah heading to the Rose Bowl. So where the heck is USC going, Zach? Or did it matter last night? Are they still in?
It's kind of a toss-up, and it's kind of up to the committee now because in certain circles, USC played their way out of the college football playoff last night. Okay, which leaves the door open for another team that I despise, Ohio State, getting in.
You do hate it.
I hate Auburn worse. I hate Auburn more. Let's just leave it at that. But in the grand landscape of things, the teams that we thought were in the college football playoff, this whole thing could explode by the end of today.
Yeah.
You're going to have teams. But I will say this, and I think I speak for everybody that is a college football fan, to where you're not talking about a Clemson. You're not talking about an Ohio, an Alabama. Okay, you don't have those perennial teams. You've got teams like TCU that are in the mix. You've got teams that are like LSU that could be in the mix. Could be. They're not, but they could be. You know, you've got Georgia that's still steamrolling through everybody. Okay.
Yeah.
It's a refreshing thought knowing that there could be 2 or 3 new teams that are in the playoff this year, and with it expanding to 12 in 2 years, dude, there's no telling. I mean, we could sit here and talk for hours about who we think is going to be in the top 4, but at the end of the day, we all could be wrong.
I mean, you're right. You're right. Tony, I come to you now, man. Question for you. USC only ran for 56 yards last night.
Mm-hmm.
Is that surprising to you?
No. Once they lost Travis Dye to injury a couple of weeks ago, it negatively impacted their ability to run. You usually get a lot of running yards from Caleb Williams, but he was obviously very hampered last night. Turns out he hurt his hamstring during the game and, talked his way into staying in the game. They had no chance of winning without him. So there was really no way to pull him, and you had to have him try and fight through it. The outcome did not surprise me. What surprised me was that it took Utah that long to get to USC's defense. That has been the middle of the field. And I was tweeting about this last night saying, I can't believe Utah's continuing to try to throw to the edges. The middle of the defense, the middle of the field has been, and defending the middle of the field has been USC's Achilles heel so many games this year. And they were living on the edge, escaping time and time again, getting away with it. Cam Rising is a terrific quarterback.
He really
He's
is.
a gutsy player. He takes a pounding and gets back up and, keeps playing. And so I had a sense that at some point you're going to start exploiting the weakness of USC's defense. It's just, so really what surprised me was that it took Kyle Whittingham that long to get to that part of it, and exploit the weakness of USC's defense. USC's offense can generally stay with anybody. And I got to think a healthy Caleb Williams, it's a different game. He's not taking some of those sacks he took because he would have been a lot more mobile. And those are the plays where you see him sprint out and get out of trouble and, pick up 7 yards when he should have been trapped 3 yards back in the backfield. And he didn't have that ability last night. So once that was gone, USC really didn't have any viable answers. And again, their defense has been a problem for them all year. And frankly, I in terms of where they go, frankly, I think they wind up in the Cotton Bowl. I think it's, I think we'll wind up seeing them in the Cotton Bowl, maybe even against somebody like Tulane.
That'd be a nice matchup, honestly.
Yeah, I think it'd be fun.
And I'm really happy to see Willie Fritz stay there. I know a lot of rumors were flowing that he was heading to Atlanta and the Rainbow Rep. But that is a guy that I'm a fan of. And he's very old school with his mentality. He's old school with his approach to the game. And his teams play hard for him, and I like Willie Fritz. I'm really happy for Tulane. Obviously, being a Memphis fan, I've followed Tulane for what I feel like is my entire life. Every conference we've ever been in, they're in too. So, but New Orleans is a great place to go watch anything happen. It really doesn't matter. New Orleans is just a fun town. I mean, you can go to New Orleans and watch paint dry, and you're gonna have fun. So, up next is the SEC Championship, and I wasn't expecting to see LSU here at the beginning of the year, especially after that loss to what has turned out to be a pretty good Florida State team.
Right.
But boy, LSU season went from just from shit to sugar real quick, flipping it, the way the old saying is. But you lose, and then you end up in the SEC Championship. Brian Kelly is just, he's got a fake Southern accent, but that's our coach. I can give him that. Tony, what's your thoughts on this LSU football team? And is there a chance they can knock Kirby Smart and Georgia off?
One, I'm surprised LSU was there. I'm with you. I didn't see this coming. But I think it's also a signifier of what the SEC West looked like this year. That, you had Alabama having a down year by Alabama standards. At the beginning of the season, everybody would talk up Texas A&M, and we can now see what a dumpster fire that program is. Nobody, I think, I looked at Brian Kelly going to LSU, and I understood why he was going there, because he had done all he was going to do at Notre Dame, with them being an independent, with them not getting conference championship type of games, and with the academics that are required at Notre Dame. You could go down to LSU and get players that you can't get at Notre Dame. And that's not disparaging LSU. That's just a statistical fact that you can get players in at LSU that you can't get in at Notre Dame. That's just the way it goes. So it gave him a chance to do something new and expand and have new horizons. I didn't like the way he started. I thought it was a misfit of pieces that didn't work. But I was wrong. It does work. He has gotten the players to buy in. Jaden Daniels has done a terrific job there, which was as big of a surprise to me as anything. I saw the guy at LSU for 3 years and was like, meh, he's a runner who throws. But frankly, he fits the Brian Kelly offense that he's running at LSU very well, bailed them out of a lot of games. So I'm surprised. Now, the next part is, do they stand a chance against Georgia? I'd be silly to write them out because of what they've done all season, but the logic in me says Georgia's going to beat them by 3 touchdowns.
Yeah. Zach, speaking of LSU's Jaden Daniels, he's one of only 2 quarterbacks to have 800 plus rushing yards and 2,000 plus passing yards this season. When I go back and I think about all the quarterbacks that were at Notre Dame under Brian Kelly, you saw great college, stats and accolades and all that. You really didn't see it necessarily transfer to the NFL per se. But Zach, when you look at Jaden Daniels, man, a young man that I have really enjoyed watching his entire career. I feel like he's been in numerous places, or he has been in places. But Brian Kelly has got this young man playing really, really, really well this season. Got wide receivers that are making plays. You got a guy with the last name Booty on your team. I just enjoy that. If you had Captain Booty and then the wide receiver from LSU with Booty, the Booty to Booty connection would be nice to hear on the radio call there at LSU. But Zach, when you look at LSU, man, what is?
Hold on, I'm gonna need a minute because Wes just said the words. I'm gonna love hearing booty, booty, booty on the radio call.
He also
I just said booty.
He also demoted one of them. He demoted one of them. It's General Booty.
Oh, that's
Not Captain Booty. It's not Major Booty.
You're down. You're right. You're stripping the guy of his stripes.
Wow. Wow.
Taking away his stripes, his oak leaves, his whatever.
If anybody just tunes into this show and we're sitting there talking about a booty, we are in trouble. Here's my thoughts on the LSU Tigers. Well, first off, they're our rivals, so they suck. No, look, Brian Kelly started off rough.
They're in the SEC Championship.
I will come through this computer.
Bro, you got a long way to drive to get to Fayetteville, G.
Look, hey, and if you know what, if I could drive, by God, I'd be going. No, look, Brian Kelly. Everybody thought, and even some of us on staff here at 4 Star thought, there's no way Brian Kelly does anything his first year, anything, because look at the look at the trouble that he caused.
Nice save.
I cannot speak this morning. Look at the trouble that he had during the recruiting season and SEC media days with the videos that he put out and all that, the fake accent. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. For
Bro,
me,
he can dance. Let's just call it spade a spade. The man's got some freaking dance moves, okay?
I've got to give props where props is due. He started from a 0, and now look at him. He's playing for the SEC title. And if he wins it, not saying that he will, and if he wins it, he's going to get Coach of the Year.
He may very well get the playoffs if he wins.
No, because they've got 2 losses. And no 2-loss team.
Resume. Look at what they've done.
No 2-loss team. Look, okay. If that's the case, then let's make an argument for Alabama again.
You can make an argument for Alabama to get
but
it.
no 2-loss team is getting into the playoff.
I understand it's never happened. Never mind. That's a whole nother story for another day. Let's just move on. So all right, let's just go around real quick. Who we got? I got. You know what? I'm gonna take LSU to pull the shocker in this game, and it's something about Brian Kelly. The man's got a family. The man's got dance moves. Winning his coach in Notre Dame, now down in Baton Rouge. Maybe the gumbo lit him up. I'm gonna take LSU. What about you, Zach? It's tough, ain't it?
No, it's not. No, it's not. Give me the freaking Bulldogs.
Okay. All right. Tell me.
Georgia by at least 3 touchdowns.
Wow. Okay. All right. Okay. Y'all just make me sound like a complete idiot on air, but it's all good.
Or a genius, depending upon how it comes out.
See, it's kind of like going for a 2-point conversion at the end of the game. You know, you get it, you look great. You don't, you look like an idiot. Ask Ryan Silverman. When you look at the up next conference of the ACC, not the AAC. Don't be confused. Talking about the Atlantic Coast Conference.
I'm not the only one having trouble. I'm not the only one having trouble talking.
Look, man, there's a lot of ACCs and AACs in those 2 conferences, and I really don't understand why the Americans did that, but that's whatever. Tony, you look at this game. You got Clemson, you got North Carolina, Mac Brown, Dabo Swinney. Every time these 2 teams meet, I feel like it's a battle, just an absolute dogfight. I'm gonna let you go first on this one, Tony. I'm gonna take North Carolina. I'm in a shocker mood today. I'm gonna take North Carolina to get the win. There's something going on in Clemson, Tony. There's something happening there. Is DJ gonna leave first? Is Cade gonna leave first? I have a lot of questions about Dabo Swinney. So, who you got, man?
I got North Carolina winning the game. I think what Phil Longo has done with this offense, he lost so much of the offensive production last year, not the least of which was a starting quarterback. And what he has done with the freshman, Drake May, I think has been phenomenal. And North Carolina's defense, which gave up a lot of points early on in the season, has steadily gotten better. I still think Gene Chizik has done a poor job overall with it, but it's gotten better as the year has gone on. Clemson, on the other hand, is vulnerable. Their defensive backs are vulnerable. They've had to go deep because of injuries over the course of the year. They've got most of their starters back, but they have been vulnerable. Heck, Sam Hartman threw for 6 touchdown passes against that defense. I think North Carolina's offense will put up a lot of points on that Clemson defense. I like North Carolina to win the game.
Zach, when you look at Mac Brown versus Clemson, the first time he coached at North Carolina, of course, you will remember, well, you probably won't. Most people will. He was there before, he's there now. He was there from 1988, Zach. I know it's been a while, 88 to 97. But he was 3-7 during that stint. He's only played him once since he's been there now. Zach, can North Carolina pull this shocker off, or does Dabo yabba dabba do and get him an ACC championship?
All depends on which team shows up. It all depends on which North Carolina team shows up. I think North Carolina has a very good shot at pulling off the win. I do. I don't think Clemson is the Clemson that we've seen in the last couple of years.
In a butt there. You didn't do it. Go ahead.
Not going to do it. Not going to do it.
Breaking pattern today, Zach. All right, so I like this morning show. We're getting off pattern. Normally, you ride the roller coaster up on a team and then you just drop off and you pick the other team. So
North Carolina has a shot to win, and I don't think Clemson is the team that we've seen in the past. Okay, so I'm going to go, but give me the Clemson Tigers to pull the win off and get the ACC title.
I knew it was coming. I just felt it. All right. Up next, we've got is it Big Ten Championship up next?
Big 12.
Big 12. Okay. This to me is the most intriguing game of the day. There's good games today. This right here is the most intriguing game of the day. Let me ask y'all a bingo card question at the beginning of the year. Who had LSU and Kansas State being top 25, top 15 teams and playing for their conference championships? I'll answer this question for y'all. No one. Nobody.
I like a guy who answers his own questions.
No one did, because nobody thought like that. Hell,
Right.
Or TCU being number 3 in the nation and undefeated for that matter. I mean, let's just be honest. The job Sonny Dykes has done over in Fort Worth has been absolutely incredible. I can tell you one thing. They practice last-second field goals at TCU. They are a master at it. And if you go back and listen to the radio call of the TCU guy, who is an amazing radio announcer, he's rushing the guys, but then he's telling them, don't get too much of a hurry now, guys. But let's speed up a little bit. It's a great call. Really kept his emotion together. But Tony, I got TCU winning this game, but I think, not to steal Lee Corso, I think it's going to be a little closer than people may expect.
Yeah, I got a tough time picking this one. I've gone back and forth over the course of the week. One is I like Sonny Dykes. I covered SMU for a year when I was in LA, going back and forth to Dallas and to the road games on a weekly basis. I like Sonny. As a reporter, I like Sonny. He's a coach who will just tell you everything you want to know and kind of leave it out there. And I used to, I've joked, I probably even told you guys, so I'm sorry if it's repetitious, but Sonny was always funny when it came to players who were injured, because coaches are very private about that. Chip Kelly would let you tweet from practice that so-and-so was in a walking boot, not practicing, but he wouldn't tell you what was wrong with the guy. He would just say he's not available. Dave Clawson at Wake Forest, these guys are in the witness protection program. You're not allowed to discuss who's injured and who's working out with the trainers. You get stripped of your credentials. Sonny Dykes would do everything short of showing you the guy's x-ray and going over the details with it. So I like a guy like that. Yeah. I think Kansas State's having a remarkable season, but I have Max Duggan showing up in New York next week, invited to the Heisman. And the Heisman ballots are not due until tomorrow. So this tells you that I think TCU is going to win. I think Duggan's going to have a big game.
I agree completely. I agree. Zach, who you got, man? Kansas State or TCU?
Man, I don't know. This one's kind of tough.
Kind of tough. Toughest game of the day.
I know if I say it, you're going to make fun of me, but give me TCU.
I would never. I don't make fun of people. I just call them out when they're wrong.
Horse manure, give me TCU.
Okay. All right. So we all took TCU on that. All right. Up next is the Big Ten Championship between number 2 Michigan and Purdue. Purdue just kind of weaseled their way into this deal. They needed 12 things to happen, and all 12 of them landed to get here to be what could very well be just a sacrificial lamb for Michigan at the end of the day. I don't see Purdue keeping this game even remotely close. Nothing against Purdue. I hope if there's any Purdue people watching, I don't know if it is, doubt it, or if you are, nothing against your school. I just think you're going to get school drug today against Michigan. Nothing against your school. Zach, what about you, man? Michigan or Purdue?
Well, I promised my buddy, who is like a big brother to me, he's a big Michigan fan. I promised him when it came down to picking this in the Big Ten Championship, I'd pick Michigan. So, sorry, Purdue Boilermakers, you're going to be boiling all the way back home because you just got your ass kicked.
Yeah, I mean, their little Boilermaker truck got stuck a few weeks back, Tony. Are they going to be able to gain traction today? Any traction today against Michigan?
No, none whatsoever. This game is what's wrong with divisional play in college football. The Pac-12 got rid of the divisions. The ACC gets rid of the divisions next year. This is what's wrong with it, that you have to take someone from the West because the West has been just so mediocre all year. I mean, we're talking about Purdue or Iowa or Illinois, and it's like, wow, really? I realize that getting rid of divisions and the top two teams playing for the championship would mean Ohio State versus Michigan again. Okay, fine. Because it's even though Ohio State, got run off the field, it's still better than this. I mean, there's this, Purdue's not going to be able to hang with Michigan in any capacity. And it's time for the Big Ten to get rid. When they get UCLA and USC over there, it's time to get rid of the divisions.
Speaking of divisions, you've got Texas, Oklahoma coming over to the SEC now. You've got teams, you got UAB and other teams jumping over to the American beginning next year. Let me ask you a question. Speaking of Texas, Oklahoma, with Cincinnati, Central Florida coming over to, and Houston coming over to the Big 12 next season, two-part question, Tony. Do you see Oklahoma and Texas leaping out early to get to the SEC? And then secondly, how do you think all that's going to affect divisions? Do you think you'll see more conferences get rid of divisions?
The first question, I think they will wind up leaving early. I think they have 2 years left on their deal with their contract with the Big 12. I think they'll be out after next year. With the Big 12 now having its extension on its TV contract, they're not relying on the money, the buyout money so much from Texas and Oklahoma to leave. There's a contractual buyout that's required. They're not going to get out scot-free, but they won't owe as much as they would. They'll negotiate an early departure because the TV revenue is locked in for the Big 12 for the next 3-4 years. Look, I don't think you can get rid of divisional play across the country. The SEC is so huge in terms of size, in terms of numbers. I don't think you can just unilaterally do it, but I do think there was conversation at one point that they would go to 4 pods, of 4 teams each. And we're now seeing, and our sources are saying that's likely not the case. They will just stay with 2 divisions. And that's, look, when you've got 16 teams, I mean, really, you've got no choice.
Right.
When you're smaller and you don't have as many teams, or you're not as hyper competitive as the SEC is in terms of the balance of power in the conference, you can do it. You can get, there was no reason for the Pac-12 to stay with it. There was no reason for the ACC should have gotten rid of it already. They announced it in the spring, but then, said we're going to start next year. You would have wound up with the same 2 teams this year. You still would have wound up with Clemson and North Carolina in your championship game. In the ACC, the conference is so heavily weighted towards the Atlantic division in terms of quality of play that it was time to get rid of it as soon as possible. I'm not sure you can do it in the SEC. It's too big of a conference size-wise.
I agree. All right, got 2 more championship games to break down. This one, I forgot to make a banner on this one. I apologize, all American Athletic fans. But we've got Tulane and Central Florida. Don't give me that face, Zach. We got Tulane and Central Florida.
I didn't say a word.
You didn't have to. Your facial expression.
The boss kind of failed his executive producer here.
But man, all right. So this game, obviously whoever wins this game, I think is going to head to the Cotton Bowl for what I feel like is the 7th or 8th season in a row that a American team has gone to the Cotton Bowl. I really want to go back and dig that up. Wouldn't take very long, but I'm very curious to know if I'm correct. Central Florida, Gus Malzahn. Gus Bus is rolling down there. Got Blindside Tui Jr. as his SID. I mean, everything's going great for Gus down there in Orlando. And then you go over to New Orleans, Louisiana, and you've got Willie Fritz, a guy that we talked about earlier, was being courted to go to Atlanta, and the Rambling Rat decided to stay home with Mama and the Gumbo there in New Orleans and keep on coaching the Green Wave. Speaking of Tulane, I think they've got some of the best logos in all of college football. The old Fighting Wave, and then the other one, man. I love them. I like their color scheme. I've never seen anybody wear light blue and hunter green together, but it works for Tulane. But Zach, what about you, man? Tulane, Green Wave, or Central Florida Black Knights?
When was the last time we spoke and talked about the relevancy of the Green Wave?
Well, they've won more SEC championships than Arkansas.
I'm going to kick you next time. You got it. You had to take that pop shot, didn't you? You had to. And
They've won a lot more SEC championships than a lot of SEC teams. But go ahead.
But seriously, in the current scheme of things, when was the last time we talked about how relevant Tulane has been?
Probably 1998, when Sean King should have went to the damn national championship, but instead they sent T. Martin in Tennessee to go play Florida State.
Well, you know why they did that? Because it would have been Arkansas.
The scam from the very beginning. Tommy Bowden, and never mind. I'll die on that bill. That
easy
for national championship. Tony, do you agree with that statement or no?
Yeah, but I'm a little biased towards Tulane. I knew Bob Toledo when he went down to coach at Tulane. Didn't like him much, but but knew him. So I got a little bit of a tilt towards Tulane. I don't get as excited about their seafoam green and blue and whatever there, Mr. Blackwell with his fashion hints, but it's I don't get as excited about that. But I like Coach Fritz and I like the job he's done at Tulane. And I think Tulane wins this game. I think it's close. I think it's a good game. I think it's probably a very entertaining game. I like both offenses, but I think Tulane wins a high-scoring game.
Zach, the American has been, as Tony just said, the American has been one of the more entertaining conferences in college football for probably the last 8 years, 10 years. And when you look at the American, Zach, they use the moniker P6. That's their moniker. It's P6. How far do you think they are off to possibly? Can they become a 6th power conference, Zach, or no? I'll be right back. By the way, I gotta go ahead, Zach.
I don't think they can.
I think they're very far off.
I was going to say I think they're very far off because losing teams like Cincinnati and Houston kind of hurt because of their Houston more than Cincinnati because of the TV market but overall I don't think who are they going to pick up to be relevant even as a group of 5 conference right now?
Right.
It's one of those that you have to look. There's a lot of factors leading in to make them lead up to become a Power 5 conference. But like I said, Tony, I think I'm with you. I think they're a long ways off.
Yeah, I think they're a long ways off. And to your point, losing the TV markets, like Houston, like Cincinnati, not only the TV markets, but both of those schools were well-funded programs. They've got big endowments for athletics. They're not having to do a lot of fundraising. The money's there. You look at the current schools in the AAC, and you don't see that. You've got some schools that are doing fine, and they do okay money wise within their own context, within their own world. not compared to the other conferences. They just don't have the funding for the athletic programs. They could, but they don't. So I think that's the biggest thing keeping them from being a bigger conference.
You know, we're talking about conferences that are not in the Power Five right now, and I really hate that term, but whatever. The Power Five right now. Speaking of the transfer portal, I'm not trying to make this show extremely long today, I promise. But speaking of the transfer portal, a team like, for example, Memphis. So you would think theoretically that Memphis would be the favorite moving forward in the conference for basketball. Maybe not currently football at 6-6 2 years in a row, but with the teams coming in, you think we would be one of the favorites to win the conference. When you look at the portal and the effect of it on group of 5 schools, do you think it's more that the portal is a better thing for them or it's a worse thing for them? I mean, obviously it's a give and take, but what's your thoughts on that, Tony?
It is a give and take. I think it is a lifeline to some of the group of 5 schools. Look, I'm seeing a lot, and again, I don't want to go back to where we started, 4 hours ago or whenever the show started, but there's this misperception that that there's no room for high school players because everyone's taking the transfer portal. Kids, look, you have 131 FBS schools. They all have 85 scholarships that they're allowed to carry on the team. The numbers are the same this year as they were last year, as they were the year before. The numbers are still consistent. You have to change your strategy. You have to look at, are we going to get, the 5-star high school players? No, probably not. They're still going to go to the same schools that they've been going to. But you're going to be able to get some of the 3 stars, the 4 stars that maybe you didn't get before, because a school is now saying, all right, I've got 25 scholarships. I can get to 25 in my recruiting class, or now it's 30. But I'm going to save 15 of those spots for the transfer portal, and I'm going to use the other for my high school recruiting. That opens up opportunities at the Memphis level, at the Central Florida level, at the Tulane level, to get some high school kids you weren't going to get before. But then there's also the ability, if you're doing it the right way, to get some transfer portal kids who went to go look for a bigger opportunity somewhere else, didn't necessarily get it at wherever they went, and are now looking for a home. Those homes are still going to be there in terms of the hard numbers. Where they are is what's going to shift with the change in the portal windows. There was speaking of Sonny Dykes, as a matter of fact, he built SMU into a success based off the transfer portal.
Yes, he did.
Before, while the Power 5 schools were ignoring it, Power 5 schools were like, we don't want anything to do with this transfer portal. It's the wreckage of college football. And what Sonny Dykes was doing was tracking players who were from the Metroplex area, the Dallas Metroplex area, who had gone, that he didn't get out of high school, that went somewhere else. They went to Oklahoma. They went to UT. They went, wherever, and it didn't work out for them. And he literally had a campaign. There were billboards throughout the Dallas area that said, "Welcome home to Dallas." And it was, you have a home here still. We didn't get you the first time, but we're going to, but we got a home for you still. And that's what he built some of those, successful classes off of, and some of the successful years off of. So if you're creative and your recruiting area, your recruiting geography, look, Memphis isn't going to recruiting Southern California,
right?
Or Ohio. They've got the region. And if you're doing a good job of keeping track of where players have gone that you missed out of high school, and you're watching the portal to see who is not having success at this Power 5 school, sitting the bench, whatever the case may be, you've got a home for those players. You can absolutely, the lower schools can absolutely, it's a lifeline for the group of 5 schools, if you ask me.
I agree completely. All right, one more game left, and then we will briefly, very briefly, I know us 3 really don't do anything briefly, but hopefully we'll briefly touch the bowl subject, just very briefly to end the show.
That's going to have to be another show. We're closing in on 90 minutes.
All right, so up next is Troy, Coastal Carolina in the Sun Belt Fun Belt Championship. Man, Troy has been playing some really good football this year. Give me Troy to get this win. Tony, what about you?
Yeah, I think Troy has played a complete season. Coastal Carolina's had some ups and downs, and when it comes to this, I'll take the consistency over the flash.
Most definitely. Zach, what about you, man?
Give me the Coastal Carolina Chanticleers.
I love that. I love that mascot.
And Wes likes their colors.
I do.
He likes the
words
teal.
right out of my mouth. I was just getting ready to say I like the colors.
He wants to talk about the teal and the black and how it blends really well together.
It does. It works well together, especially in those all black uniforms they've got. It works well. Tony's learning a lot about me this morning.
Tony's like, I'm never coming on this show again. Yes, it's just really weird.
I'm like, I need more coffee.
I think the opposite. I think it makes me want to come back on to talk about uniform competition.
He's over here going, I'm going to need stronger coffee if I'm going to put up with this.
Exactly. I got to put something in it next time.
Yeah, UCLA has nice color combinations too. But anyway, when you look at the college football season as a whole, we're at the end. It's championship weekend. It all kicks off in an hour. See, we don't have any views right now, but I don't give a crap. What you could have done is you could have watched this show and taken you right up to the dadgum college football championship games kicking off at 11. But we've had Tony Siracusa on with us for the last hour and half, I feel like, 4 hours, whatever it's been. Zach Kurt has done an amazing job as the executive producer today, as always. Want to make sure Zach has a quick shout out because he does an incredible job with everything we do here at 4-Star Sports Media. Once again, I'm Wes Pruitt. Tony Siracusa has joined us. We've broken down every single big college football game today and the one that took place last night. Tomorrow, all day is media calls with coaches from around all the different bowl games that'll be announced tomorrow at 11 a.m. So keep your peepers on tomorrow at 11 a.m. because all the bowl games, all 95 bowls will be announced tomorrow, including the toilet bowl between Texas A&M and whoever they play. So, Zach, do you have any final thoughts? And then I'll get a ton.
No, I'm good. I'm good.
Wow. Damn.
We've left them speechless.
Wow. Tony, what about you?
No, I was glad to join you guys. It got me out of what I was supposed to be doing when you hit me up early this morning.
Yeah.
I was supposed to be going to the storage unit to get all the crates of Christmas decor because we tend to overdo it with the Christmas stuff and have like 20 massive crates in storage, and it got me out of doing that this morning. So I appreciate you guys calling me and asking if I was available to join the show. I enjoyed doing it as always.
Yeah, man. Tony, we love your insight and your astute knowledge of the game of college football and anything and everything.
That word again.
Anything and everything going on. It's a great way to describe it. Gee. But for Tony Siracusa, Razorback Zach Kerr down at the bottom, our executive producer. I'm Wes Pruitt, owner and CEO of 4-Star Sports Media, and you have been watching the College Football Championship Edition Saturday morning. We are out.